So today I wanted to kind of continue a conversation that I had on my recent video where I had the Nintendo NX Q&A. I had thrown out a request for a bunch of questions about the NX that you guys had for me on Twitter and Facebook. Had a bunch of awesome responses. Did that Q&A a few days ago. It was very successful. People really seem to be enjoying it, which is super cool. One of the questions I was asked on that Q&A was something that I felt was worth elaborating further on. And so that's what I want to do today. The gist of that question was whether or not Nintendo is either nervous or overconfident to show the NX. The question I actually got specifically, I believe, was actually about Nintendo being so confident that they didn't mind revealing it closer to when the system was actually going to come out. So as opposed to Nintendo revealing it 6, 7, or 8 months before it launches, like most companies normally would and have in the past, they would maybe reveal it in like late January or mid-February before it launches just a month later in March. You know, saying that Nintendo probably believes so much in it and they know what they have is such gold that they could show it whenever and people are still going to love it and be willing to run out and buy it. It's a pretty interesting theory that definitely has some understandable logic behind it. And it also sort of reminds me of a counter argument that had been going on over the past couple of weeks as well, where some people have been discussing whether or not Nintendo might also just be nervous to show the Nintendo NX. More specifically, if they're maybe worried or concerned about Microsoft or Sony, what they're doing with their upgraded consoles, just the state of the video game industry, and also very much the fact that the Wii U was unfortunately a failure, so that maybe all of these elements combined made them very nervous to show the system. Also, very understandable logic and a very good theory. I think that there's kind of something behind both sides of that argument, whether or not they're so confident they don't mind waiting to show it, or they're so nervous they're afraid to show it. So I gave a pretty lengthy answer to that question on the NX Q&A video. I recommend you go and check that out if you haven't already to hear what I say about that and how I answer other questions. Again, that was a lot of fun, so I really appreciate that people did that. But I did want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that because I think there's a larger conversation to have. To more directly answer the idea on whether or not Nintendo is nervous to show the Nintendo NX, I think a little bit maybe, but for the most part, I don't know that that's exactly what it is. I have a feeling that more directly relating to the question I got, I think that Nintendo is actually fairly confident about the NX. And for some reason, I think it's just a gut feeling that's making me feel that, you guys, based on how Nintendo has been treating other things and how they've been, not afraid to just sort of ignore it and show us a Nintendo 3DS Direct and show us just Zelda at E3 and all these different things and just barely mention any sort of whisper about the NX. As much as I can see someone saying, oh, they're probably nervous, for some reason, it just rings to me as something that says they're confident in it. They do believe, I think, in what they're doing. And through that, I think that they're just making sure that they reveal this thing the correct way. Now, when you look at the fact that Sony and Microsoft have new hardware coming out soon, Sony's is in a month or so, and then Microsoft's is sometime next year, but they did just come out with the One S, I guess, so there is also that. You look at what's happening there, and you look at the fact that the Wii U wasn't successful. Those are the main things that some people are saying could be leading to Nintendo being nervous. And that does make sense. I think that Nintendo understands that they're in a very precarious situation. And because of that, I think that they want to just knock it out of the park with the NX. I really think that at the end of the day, this whole idea of if Nintendo's confident or nervous, and just the simple fact that they've been taking so long to not only show us the thing, but just to goddamn talk about it, I really feel like it comes down to Nintendo knowing more than ever they have to knock it out of the park. I don't really think that necessarily what the system is or the quality of the system is holding the Nintendo NX back. I really think that they're like, okay, the Wii U was a failure, and Sony and Microsoft are presenting stiff competition. So that is building off of the points that some people are talking about. Nintendo's considering that. But at the same time, they're also like, well, what we have is really excellent, and we want to make sure that we translate that to people in the best possible way. And beyond that, I think that they want to also translate it to people at the best possible time. I think that that's another element people aren't really considering is Nintendo, I think, very much wants to make sure it's at the right time. Now, whether or not that relates to Paper Mario coming out and having a good couple of weeks to be a brand new game that people are talking about, whether it has to do with their investors meeting that I think happens at the end of October, if I'm not mistaken, whether it has to do with Sony releasing the PS4 Pro or the PlayStation VR, or maybe it's big games like Gears of War and Final Fantasy 15 coming out, whatever is going on, I really think that the scheduling of when Nintendo talks about it is also part of what they're thinking. And it's part of why, like I've said numerous times, they didn't want to probably reveal the NX at E3, is they really want to have their own space, their own chunk of time, and then hype and buzz to build after the reveal to show people the system and let people know, hey, this is what it is, and it's the only thing in the gaming world people are paying attention to, or one of the only things, if, you know, in the best case scenario, and everyone has a reason to talk about it and be excited for it and research it and go out and pre-order it and save their money for it and find new articles and information on it. I think Nintendo probably wants to let people get hands-on, like the press, I should say, get hands-on with it around the time of the reveal. As we discussed on the podcast this past week, I think all of these factors are what's leading Nintendo to just very strategically reveal the NX at a specific time. So, going back to the original concept, however, I do think that all the other elements, the Wii U's failure and what Sony and Microsoft might be doing, does play into it a little bit. But I really feel like it's less nervousness and more just that they know they need to do it the right way. They need to come off of what happened with the Wii U and let people know, hey, everything that went wrong with that system, as much as we believe in it, hopefully, you know, I'm sure Nintendo believes in the system and is proud of what they made, and they should be, because I think the Wii U is an amazing system. It had some problems. It had poor marketing. It was underpowered. All these different things are true, but it did so many other things well. A great controller and an amazing library that, to me, overshadow the bad. Hopefully, Nintendo can focus more on that stuff and say, hey, we're proud of our Wii U. We're proud of our 8th generation system. It meant a lot to us, and I think we released some great games on it. But we don't want to do that again, so don't worry about all the problems that happened with our last generation machine. We're very excited to show you all of the great things we're doing with this machine. That confidence and that conviction in your message goes a long way from a business sense into a consumer sense. To us, the gamer and the consumer who wants to be excited and sold on what Nintendo's doing, that goes a long way to getting people ready to purchase your product. So I feel like that's the majority of what's going on. Is Nintendo knows, A, they need to do it at the right time, strategically, and B, they need to make sure it's the best possible version of a reveal that it could be, so as to not botch the message, so as to not confuse people on what the machine actually is and what the concept of the NX is going to bring to gaming and all these different things. The last thing that I think could also be leading to them not showing it is something that people were talking about a while ago, and we've kind of forgotten this, and it even goes back to something Kimishima had said outwardly at one point, is I do think the game library is a huge reason why they're not showing it. I think that they want to make sure that A, the presentation is the best it can be, and B, they have the right games to show at the reveal and the right games to release at launch and throughout the first year. I think that Nintendo has learned so many mistakes from what happened with the Wii U, and one of the number one reasons they probably have learned, that they have talked about, like I said, was making sure they have the right trickle of games to keep the system interesting and engaging for a long period of time. It's very smart and important. I think that they plan on having a good, solid launch lineup, and with, you know, throughout that first year into holiday 2017 next year, I think they want to make sure they've got games ready there, and they don't want to have a system that has a drought in the first year so that people stop buying it. I think it absolutely destroyed that momentum of the Wii U, because the first month or two was actually solid. I think it sold 3 million units by the end of the second or third month, which is good. If it had kept that momentum up, we would be probably in a whole totally different world. But the early droughts of the Wii U completely stopped people from purchasing it, and then they could never recoup from that. So I think that they are, just like they've said, making sure they have the right amount of games to actually sell the machine to people. The other thing, this is actually the last thing, and hopefully you make it far enough in the video to hear this part. What I kind of sort of maybe a little bit wonder, this is a stretch of a theory for me, I'm stretching to get to this point, but I think there could be something to this. There's been so many rumors this last year, and specifically so many rumors and quote-unquote leaks. I don't know how much of that's actually true, whether it's the Eurogamer thing, whether it's Boogie's recent comments the last couple of days, whether it's all of these, you know, leaked fake controllers and things that people are showing, all these different things. There's been so much of that. The Morphous X300 thing that's happened, that's been, everyone talked about last week. I mean, all this stuff. There's been so much of this. And as I've said a couple of times, there's been so many rumors that I'm sure some of these things have been true, or at least sort of true. I wonder if some people have gotten it so right that Nintendo had to completely change how they were going to reveal the NX. So let's just say, for example, the X300 thing and the breakable controller thing is actually really pretty much true. And that's what the Nintendo NX is really going to focus on, which is kind of even sort of what Boogie said it might be, you know, the last couple of days. if that stuff is true, and Nintendo had put together their presentation in their reveal in a way that was going to make it seem brand new and that would totally surprise people, all of a sudden they can't reveal it that way. They can't treat that system like it's like people are going to be surprised by it. So they might have completely gone back, redacted their original version of that reveal, and redone, re-recorded, or restructured and scripted a new reveal that talks about it not like it's a new thing, but like it's a thing you already knew was going to happen, but let us still show you why it's amazing and it's going to make Nintendo gaming better. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys what I'm saying. I mean, there's two different ways you can show off a product like this. A, you know it's a surprise and people are going to have their mind blown when they see it. Or B, people know what to expect, but you still have to sell them on why it's awesome and better than what you did last time. And if there's some truth to what some of these rumors have been, this probably should have been a whole video topic in and of itself, but oh well. If there's some truth to any of these rumors, Eurogamers things, Boogie's thing, whatever, then all of a sudden Nintendo has to say, okay, we can't treat people like they're stupid. We have to respect our audience and let them understand, okay, you kind of busted us. So they might have completely changed their programming and they had to do the reveal in a completely different way than they would have done back in August, before, around the time Eurogamers thing was coming out, which might have just blown the lid off of what they were doing. Who knows? So these are all the different factors why I think Nintendo might be waiting to show us the NX. The nervousness and, the trepidation of what Nintendo or Sony and Microsoft are doing, and the fact that the Wii U failed. I think there is something to that. I think they definitely, are aware of those things. I don't know if it's making them afraid so much as it is giving them pause and making sure that they do it the right way because of these things. I think that they're more concerned about doing it the right way than they are about being worried about the competition or worried that the NX isn't going to be a good product. I think they believe in it, and I think you should too, until we see otherwise. If the reveal happens and it really is lame, then it is what it is and we'll have to deal with it at that time. But until then, I think that you should be comfortable and confident knowing Nintendo's a really smart company. I think that they're going to make sure to do this the right way and the way that we want. So whenever that happens, whether it's tomorrow or in 100 years, I guess that's when we'll be able to talk about what the NX actually is and whenever they decide to show it to us. So tell me what you guys think about all these crazy theories I have below. Do you think Nintendo's nervous, or do you think that their confidence is making it so that they know they can reveal it the right way at the right time? Thanks, as always, for tuning in, guys. Of course, this is Rob of Rule 2 Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.